This is going to be a fairly short video. This is an update to the video I did a couple weeks ago, or however the fuck ago, about Metallica and the blood donations campaign. So I submitted a Freedom of Information request to NHS Blood and Transplant because I was interested to know, like, what was the actual impact of the Metallica blood campaign? Like, how much did it actually do? Was it just flash in the pan or whatever? I think I mentioned in the previous video that they've done some collaborations with other media properties in the past, but never with a band. And I think I can show you, where's the document? There it is. So if we go and look like this, one sec, there we go. So it says, thank you for your request, blah, blah, blah. So I said, I want to know if there's been an increase in donations, which they attribute to the campaign, how much was this increased by, and did this relate to Metallica's touring schedule? So they said, through the Metallica partnership, they did see an increase in donations. They note that there could have been other factors in play, because of course you can't just attribute a rise in registration to a campaign. That's not how marketing works. It's nebulous. However, they say it would be useful for you to look at the Give Blood and Metallica social media handles, where you can see people that share their own testimonies, and we'll have a look at some of those, indeed, in a sec. The stats. On average, over the past 3 months, about 700 people register to give blood each day in the country. And the Metallica campaign, which ran from the 26th of June to the 3rd of July, showed higher registrations per day than the average figure on every single day, apart from the 28th of June, where they note that normally things tend to be on the weekends. Particularly notable is this number. This is one of those curious things that happen sometimes in metal, where the metal numbers show up. It's one of those odd things, actually, because it's kind of like the name Metallica itself. This is a curio of my own, but why is it that the most successful metal band of all time, that is indisputably metal, let's ignore AC/DC, who nowadays would largely be classed as a rock album, even though Back in Black is a 50 million copy seller, why is it that Metallica, the best known officially metal band of all time, why are they named after metal? Bizarre. So there were 13 registrations on the 2nd of July, which coincided with an ITV takeover and a standalone blood appeal. I'd also like to note that where the gigs were, or when the gigs were. So if we go to 2026, down here, we can see that the Cardiff date particularly lines up on the Saturday. So I wonder then if these 3 days which follow, this period which follows, relate specifically to the Cardiff date. I have asked NHS Blood and Transplant to follow up with geographical information, hopefully. Maybe they'll be able to show which areas saw the greatest number of registrations. So yeah, I thought that was worth starting with, and then I had a scroll on the various things relating to the Bleeding Me hashtag, and I found out that actually this is a campaign that's happened across several countries. So in November they were doing it in Australia. Here's a big interesting post from the oh yeah, I need to actually show you this. Never mind, sorry, let me show you the right. So there's a post from Australia in the end of 2025, and here's a post from NHS Blood Donation confirming the end of the campaign, and they refer to a couple of Metallica a couple of Metallica songs are referred to smirkingly in the post. People talking about the shirts and stuff. Oh, let's not display people's personal information. But yeah, so that was interesting. If we search Bleeding Me, we should find some more posts. Which, there you go. So for instance, here is a nice Welsh person donating for the first time. Oh my god, this is awful. This is not how you present a video, is it? Just scrolling up and down on things. Oh my god. There we go, but whatever. Maybe some of this is going to get cut by YouTube. Who cares? So this is interesting. The extent to which Metallica kind of reached people, and there were lots of other testimonies where people said, "I've never donated blood before, and Metallica inspired me to do that." I think the international angle, the fact that this has happened over multiple countries, that's quite interesting because it indicates it's not just something, it's not a particular innovation on the part of NHS Blood and Transplant, right? They've done things with media properties before, but Metallica clearly brought this campaign to them, and they said, "Oh yes, what a good idea." So that's quite interesting. And I wanted also to find a certain Metallica Telegraph. That's the one. Because I didn't mention this in the last Metallica normalisation blah blah that I was doing, but I think we really should talk about this, and we can big it up for this as well. So this headline is from the 4th of July, and they say in the Telegraph, and you know how I feel about the Telegraph and their metal reportage, right? Like if you watched my video about Ozzy's obituaries, you'll know that I have a real interest in the way the Telegraph reports metal, because they're supposedly the arch Tory newspaper, right? And what our boy Rob Fitzpatrick, who was a curator at Spotify, deputy editor at The Word, who doesn't really, his bio doesn't really talk about metal, so he's not a metal. Let's be cruel. Let's assume he doesn't know anything about metal. Let's assume he's a rock, pop music expert journalist. Where's his PhD? So he's saying Metallica present a picture of what America should look like: ambitious, pluralistic, and joyful. Now that's really quite something. They're talking about a good time that brought together multiple generations. And this is cool. The Despite is doing a lot of work in Despite a set built on bleak alienation, opening with Creeping Death and Harvester of Sorrow. Which, right, so this is a great moment because Mr. Fitzpatrick has completely misunderstood. If you start a set with Creeping Death, people go apeshit because it's a banger. It's a great song. It's my favourite. It's one of my favourite songs about Passover. It's about the angel of death. It's cool. Like there's a kind of I would argue there's a misunderstanding of what metal is, but he then identifies, look, it's all about the love for metal and how this is much better than the presumed discord, not joyful, not pluralistic, what America looks like now. It's very interesting to see a conservative newspaper provide that kind of critique. Obviously, we have to. You can be quite right-wing in this country and still criticise Donald Trump. That's not a problem That's not been a problem for a lot of conservatives. For people further right, you kind of have to side with Trump to greater or lesser extent. But So maybe they're trying to ride the line, and I know that the Telegraph is trying to kind of rejig themselves a little bit. But still, Metallica being an emblem of American kind of success and pluralism is particularly interesting because Metallica have done all of this work to revise their public image and make themselves look more charitable and respectable. While at the same, it's they're kind of hewing more to the centre, perhaps politically, compared to the "Don't Tread on Me," or the or the Bush era where James Hetfield was happy to hear that Metallica songs were being played at Guantanamo Bay. This is a bit of a shift in the 20 years that have followed, and maybe we'll find out in the long run that James Hetfield, actually let's look that up. James Hetfield Trump? Question mark. Most recent, he said, I'm staying out of this. That was 10 years ago, though. 10 years ago, right, and more recently, he's saying, no, I don't like it. And even a year ago, Trump told not to use Metallica's music. So perhaps there has been a hewing to the centre on the part of Metallica more broadly. They have decided that in order to be the biggest metal band in the world, you do have to be pluralistic. You do have to encompass the whole world. And that means forgoing the kind of American exceptionalist rhetoric which dominated the kind of middle period of their career, certainly in interviews and the like. Anyway, interesting stuff. Have a good one. Bye.